The detection system of Outpost Stellar 7 shrieked to life, startling Officer Tak from his drowsy state. He had been watching the quiet sector for 12 hours straight with nothing to report. His antennae twitched as he leaned forward, six-fingered hands moving across the control panel. "What is it?" asked Hana, hurrying over from her station. Her blue scales glinted under the soft lights of the monitoring room. "Unknown ship signature," Tak replied, his voice tight. "Nothing like this in our records." Hana's eyes widened as she studied the readings. Size calculation complete. It's massive. The sleek obsidian vessel that emerged from hyperspace made the largest Galactic Union cruisers look like transport shuttles. Its hull displayed strange markings, TDV Valor, alongside an unfamiliar circular emblem, showing a blue and green world wrapped in olive branches. "Alert Ambassador Rim," Tak ordered, his claw hovering over the emergency alert system, "and notify Defense Squadron 8. Within minutes, the station's command center filled with officers from 6 different species. Ambassador Rim of the Xelnar entered last, his 4 eyes blinking nervously as he assessed the situation. "Have they made any aggressive moves?" Rim asked, adjusting his ceremonial robes. "None," replied Station Commander Pol. "They've maintained position since arrival." Rim nodded. "Open communications." The main screen flickered as the connection established. The aliens collectively gasped when the image stabilized. The being looking back had no scales, tentacles, or exoskeleton. Just smooth skin, dark eyes, and short black hair. She wore a deep blue uniform covered with small metallic pins and symbols. "Unknown vessel, this is Galactic Union Outpost Stellar 7. Ambassador Rim said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard Union language. "Identify yourself and state your purpose." The strange being nodded respectfully. "This is Captain June of the Terran Defense Vessel Valor, representing Earth and the Terran Alliance. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations with the Galactic Union." Her voice held a calm confidence that made even Commander Pol stand straighter. The command center burst into whispered conversations. "Earth? Not in our records," muttered intelligence officer Zin, frantically searching the database. "Terran? No known species with that designation," added Hana. Ambassador Rim raised a 3-fingered hand for silence. "Captain June, we welcome peaceful contact. Would you and a small delegation be willing to board our station for initial discussions?" "We would be honored," Captain June replied with a slight bow. "Expect our shuttle in 30 minutes. Valor out." As the screen went dark, chaos erupted in the command center. "Deploy security teams. Scan for weapons signatures. Alert the Council immediately." Ambassador Rim called for order. "This is a historic moment. These humans appear advanced but peaceful. Let us show the dignity of the Galactic Union." 90 minutes later, the station's main docking bay witnessed the arrival of a sleek shuttle. The gathered aliens watched as 5 figures emerged. Unlike the varied physiologies of Union species, these humans looked remarkably similar to each other, different only in minor facial features, hair, and skin tones. Leading them was Captain June, smaller in person than she had appeared on screen. Behind her walked 4 others, 2 wearing similar uniforms and 2 in what appeared to be formal attire rather than military dress. What struck the watching aliens most was how the humans moved. Each step seemed precisely measured, their movements fluid yet controlled. They walked in perfect formation, maintaining exact distances between them. Even when standing still, they positioned themselves with geometric precision. "They move like hive minds, but each appears to be an individual," whispered Security Chief Nell to Commander Pol. The formal introductions went smoothly until Sub-Commander Da, fascinated by the ornate blade at Captain June's side, reached out to touch it. Before his claw could make contact, 2 human guards shifted position. One gently intercepted Da's arm, while the other moved to stand between Captain June and the potential threat. The movement happened so quickly that several security officers didn't register it until it was over. Most startling was that despite the speed, no weapons had been drawn, and Sub-Commander Dai was completely unhurt. The room fell silent. Captain Jun broke the tension with a slight smile. My apologies for my security team's reaction. The sword is a ceremonial item of great significance. Ambassador Rim nodded nervously. No offense taken. We should have explained our customs better. Later, during a more relaxed moment in the diplomatic lounge, Captain Jun explained further. We encountered pirates in the Vega sector on our approach. Standard security protocols remain in effect until we establish mutual trust. Pirates? Asked Ambassador Rim. The Crescent Raiders. We didn't stop to ask their species, replied one of Jun's officers with a small smile that showed teeth. The aliens shifted uncomfortably. As the initial meeting concluded, the humans returned to their vessel with promises of future talks. Ambassador Rim immediately retreated to his private chamber and sent an urgent message to the Galactic Council. Have encountered previously unknown species called humans from planet Earth. Bipedal, seemingly fragile, but move with concerning precision. Their technology appears centuries beyond our estimates. Vessel size and capabilities exceed our largest battleships. Most concerning, they claim to have passed through Crescent territory without difficulty. Recommend immediate diplomatic initiative before others make contact. These humans could be either our greatest allies or the most dangerous threat we have ever faced. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Union buzzed with nervous energy. Delegates from 17 species filled the tiered seating that circled the central speaking floor. Some whispered in hushed tones, while others gestured with tentacles, claws, or appendages. The air smelled of different species scents, some floral, others musky, a few downright unpleasant to certain attendees. In the center of this alien congress stood 5 humans, looking remarkably calm. Captain Jun stood with perfect posture, flanked by Diplomatic Officer Sung and 3 security personnel. They seemed unbothered by being the focus of hundreds of alien eyes. High Council Elder Thrix, an ancient being with translucent skin that revealed pulsing organs beneath, raised his long-fingered hand for silence. The chamber gradually quieted. Representatives of Earth, Thrix's voice wavered with age, but carried authority. Your arrival has created quite a stir among our members. Many questions need answers. Captain Jun bowed slightly. We are here to provide them, Elder Thrix. Then let us begin with the most pressing, Thrix continued. How is it that your species remained undetected for so long? Our exploration vessels have mapped your sector for over 300 cycles. Diplomatic Officer Sung stepped forward. Unlike Captain Jun's military bearing, Sung moved with fluid grace. His smile appeared genuinely warm. Our isolation was by choice, not limitation. Sung explained. Earth has been observing galactic affairs for centuries. Gasps echoed through the chamber. A delegate from the insectoid Vrex species buzzed loudly in agitation. Impossible, shouted a reptilian delegate from the upper tier. No pre-FTL civilization could detect our observation satellites. Who said we were pre-FTL? Captain Jun asked quietly. The chamber fell silent again. She reached into her pocket and removed a small silver cube. With a tap of her finger, it floated upward and projected a detailed 3-dimensional map of the entire sector in glowing blue light. The map included every planet, moon, asteroid field, and space station, including military installations the Union had classified as top secret. A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the assembly. Security officers moved closer to their delegates. This is from our records 20 years ago, Captain Jun explained. We've been updating it regularly since then. From a darkened alcove high in the chamber's wall, 3 shadowy figures watched the proceedings with intense interest. Their specialized recording equipment captured every word and image. These Vaxid spies had infiltrated the Union headquarters months ago, their advanced cloaking technology making them virtually undetectable. The humans will make excellent slaves once the Imperium conquers them, whispered one spy. Their technology will serve our Emperor well. Their defenses seem minimal, agreed another. just one warship. Suddenly, the spies froze as two figures materialized beside them. Human security officers in dark uniforms stood casually, as if they'd been there all along. "Your cloaking technology is impressive," said Security Chief Mai, a compact woman with sharp eyes. "But your breathing patterns give you away." The second human officer, Gun, smiled pleasantly while holding a small device pointed at the Vaxid. "Also, your body temperature runs exactly 4.3 degrees hotter than the ambient environment. Quite distinctive." Within minutes, Union security had taken the stunned Vaxid into custody, as the diplomatic meeting continued uninterrupted below. Later that evening, the Union hosted a cultural exchange banquet. The Great Hall was decorated with symbols from all member species, with tables arranged to accommodate different physiologies and dietary needs. The aliens watched in confusion as the fierce-looking humans displayed unexpected behaviors. Lieutenant Jin, a tall human with broad shoulders and a face scarred from some past battle, knelt beside an elderly Xelnar who struggled with their eating utensils. With gentle patience, Jin helped position the special feeding tools in the Xelnar's weakened claws. Across the room, Engineer Sue sat surrounded by alien children. From her pockets, she produced small pieces of metal and wire, deftly shaping them into tiny moving toys that delighted the youngsters. Her fingers moved with blinding speed, yet created objects of delicate beauty. "I don't understand," confessed Trade Minister Yol to Ambassador Rim. "Their military precision suggested a warlike species, yet they show such kindness." "Perhaps they are more complex than we first assessed," Rim replied, watching Captain June effortlessly navigating a conversation with representatives from 3 biologically incompatible species. The pleasant evening shattered when emergency alarms blared throughout the complex. The massive view screen at the front of the hall activated automatically, showing the panicked face of a Union commander. His uniform was torn, and smoke billowed behind him. "Emergency Council override. Authorization Zeta 9. He shouted over the sounds of explosions. "Vaxid battle fleet attacking Colonial Outpost Delta. They came from nowhere." The transmission shook as something exploded nearby. "Civilian evacuation failing. Medical facilities overwhelmed. Our defenses are collapsing. We need immediate reinforce." The screen went black. A hall erupted in chaos. Council members shouted orders while security personnel rushed to protective positions. Military officials huddled, already discussing response options. In the midst of the confusion, Captain June calmly tapped her communication device. After a brief exchange in the human language, she approached the council elders who were frantically organizing a response. "The nearest Union battle group is 3 days away at maximum speed," a military advisor was saying. "Outpost Delta will be destroyed by then." Captain June stepped forward. The authority in her bearing silenced the debate. "The Valor stands ready to assist," she stated simply. "We can reach Delta in 2 hours." "1 vessel against a Vaxid battle fleet," scoffed a military commander. "Impossible." Captain June's expression didn't change. "We'll depart immediately, unless you object." The council elders exchanged glances. Then Elder Thrix nodded slowly. "May fortune favor your bravery, Captain." June bowed slightly, then turned and strode from the hall, her team falling in perfect formation behind her. "They're going to their deaths," muttered an officer. Ambassador Rim watched them leave, his 4 eyes blinking thoughtfully. "Perhaps, or perhaps we are about to learn why humans remained hidden for so long." Colonial Outpost Delta burned. The sky above the planet glowed red with fire as Vaxid destroyers bombarded the surface. Each blast left smoking craters where homes and community centers once stood. The evacuation centers, clearly marked with Union peace symbols, received the heaviest fire. In orbit, the remaining Union defense ships struggled to maintain formation. 3 cruisers drifted with critical damage, their hulls breached and venting atmosphere. The 5 ships still fighting were overwhelmed by the 18 Vaxid vessels that circled like predators. Admiral Zet stood on the bridge of the Union flagship Guardian, his scaled hands gripping the command rail so tightly it bent under his strength. The tactical display showed the grim reality. They were losing badly. "Pull back to defensive position Theta," he ordered, his voice heavy. "We cannot hold this line." His second-in-command looked up from the communication station. "Sir, evacuation is only 30% complete. There are still thousands of civilians planetside." Admiral Zet closed his eyes briefly. Impossible to breach that blockade. "The colony is lost." The words had barely left his mouth when alarm tones sounded across the bridge. The sensor officer jerked upright in surprise. "New contact. Something's coming through." But that's impossible. Space itself seemed to tear open directly between the Vaxid fleet and the colony. A rippling distortion formed, then stabilized into a perfect ring of energy. Through this portal emerged the Valor, its black hull absorbing the light from the nearby sun. "They jumped into an active combat zone," gasped the navigation officer. "The gravitational stresses should have torn them apart." Indeed, Union ships never attempted hyperspace jumps so close to planetary bodies or in the middle of enemy formations. The mathematics made such maneuvers suicidal, or so they had believed. On the Valor's command deck, Captain June stood calmly at the center, surrounded by holographic displays showing every aspect of the battle. "All batteries, targeted suppression fire," she ordered, her voice steady. "Priority on weapons platforms threatening civilian zones. Drop teams prepare for civilian extraction." The Vaxid reacted immediately, turning their guns toward this unexpected threat. 20 missiles streaked toward the Valor, each powerful enough to cripple a Union cruiser. What happened next stunned the watching Union officers. The Valor's point defense systems activated, not with random saturation fire as Union ships would use, but with precise, single shots. Each defensive blast intercepted a missile at exactly the optimal distance for minimal debris scatter. Not a single projectile got within a kilometer of the ship. Meanwhile, 6 dropships launched from the Valor's ventral bays, screaming toward the surface at speeds that seemed reckless. On the ground, Union soldiers were falling back from their perimeter around Evacuation Center 3. Vaxid ground forces had broken through their lines, and civilian casualties were mounting. Lieutenant Gore looked up at the sound of sonic booms. 6 black craft descended through the smoke-filled sky, landing in a perfect hexagon around the civilian gathering. The craft opened to reveal humans in black armor, moving with that same eerie precision the Union officers had witnessed at the diplomatic meeting. Squad leader Byung stepped from the lead dropship and assessed the situation instantly. Deploy gravity anchors. Establish the perimeter. Medical teams to the wounded. The human soldiers placed small devices at equal intervals. When activated, they generated a shimmering field that bent light slightly. "Get everyone inside the perimeter," Byung shouted to the Union soldiers. A Vaxid assault group charged toward the evacuation center, their spiked armor and razor weapons designed to maximize civilian terror. They hit the invisible gravity field at full speed and stopped as if striking a solid wall. Some flew backward, while others collapsed under suddenly multiplied gravity. Commander Liz of Union Intelligence watched from a nearby command post, amazed at what she was seeing. "They're fighting differently," she observed to her staff. "The Vaxid don't know how to respond." Indeed, the human combat doctrine defied conventional understanding. The Union and Vaxid both fought for territory, for resources, for glory. These humans seemed focused entirely on protecting civilians and neutralizing threats with minimal force. When a Vaxid commander deployed elite shock troops to flank the evacuation center, squad leader Byung's team intercepted them with brutal efficiency. The humans moved like dancers in a lethal performance, each step precise, each shot placed exactly where it would do the most damage with the least expenditure of energy. Yet moments after this deadly display, the same soldiers knelt beside injured alien children, their armored gloves somehow gentle as they applied medical treatments. One female soldier cradled a scared Selmar child against her armor, humming a soft melody while her teammates secured the area. In orbit, The Valor demonstrated equally perplexing tactics. Its weapons targeted Vaxid ships with surgical precision, disabling weapon systems, engines, and communication arrays rather than destroying the vessels outright. They're isolating the command ships, Admiral Zet realized, cutting off the Vaxid chain of command. Within an hour, the Vaxid fleet scattered in disarray, their coordinated attack broken by the Valor's systematic dismantling of their command structure. On the surface, evacuation resumed under human protection. 3 hours later, as the last civilians boarded transport ships, a Union general approached Captain June near the smoldering remains of what had been the colony's central plaza. "I don't understand," said the general, looking at the crippled but largely intact Vaxid ships drifting in orbit. "You could have destroyed them completely. Why didn't you?" Captain June watched as her troops boarded their dropships. Mission complete. "Unnecessary destruction serves no purpose," she replied simply. "They know our capabilities now." She glanced at a group of alien children watching the humans with wide eyes. One small girl waved shyly at Bang, who nodded respectfully in return. "Today wasn't about destroying enemies," June added. "It was about saving lives." The general looked thoughtful. "The Vaxid will return with greater numbers. They always do." For the first time, Captain June smiled slightly. "We're counting on it." The name Valor echoed through markets and schools across 17 worlds. Children with scales, fur, and tentacles played with toy versions of the Black Ship, arguing over who got to be Captain June in their games. Stories of the battle at Outpost Delta spread, growing more fantastic with each telling. In the main hall of Union headquarters, Engineer Sue stood before an eager crowd of alien scientists. Her fingers moved across a floating display, manipulating the three-dimensional image of a medical device. "This tissue regenerator can heal wounds that would normally be fatal," she explained as the alien scientists watched with wide eyes. "It uses the patient's own cellular structure as a template." An elderly Vrex scientist raised a trembling claw. "This technology alone would save millions of lives each cycle." Sue nodded. "Earth is happy to share medical advances. We believe all species deserve access to healing." Later that same day, in a secure briefing room deep within Union headquarters, Captain June met with the Union Security Council. 20 of the most powerful military and political leaders in the sector sat around a large table, their attention fixed on the human captain. "We appreciate the medical technology," said Admiral Zet, "but we must discuss the Vaxid threat. They will return, likely with greater numbers." Captain June nodded. "We've been monitoring Vaxid movements since the battle. Their fleet is regrouping at these coordinates." She activated a small device on her wrist. The room darkened, and a detailed map appeared in the air above the table. It showed not only the current positions of Vaxid forces, but their supply lines, communication relays, and hidden bases, most of which were unknown to Union intelligence. The council members exchanged worried glances. "How did you obtain this intelligence?" asked General Toss, her 4 eyes blinking rapidly. Instead of answering directly, Captain June expanded the hologram. The map zoomed out to show the entire sector, then continued expanding to reveal neighboring sectors. Tiny lights appeared, moving in careful patterns through the darkness of space. "Earth's defense fleet," June said quietly. "Over 300 vessels of various classes and capabilities." The council stared in shock at the extent of the human presence. Ships positioned near every major system, moving undetected through territories believed secure. "Why reveal this now?" Admiral Zet asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "We prefer peace," Captain June explained, "but we remain prepared. The Vaxid attack on Delta confirmed our assessment of their intentions. They won't stop with isolated colonies." 3 days later, the Grand Chamber was prepared for the historic signing of the Earth-Union Cooperative Accord. Decorative plants from 17 worlds created a living tapestry behind the central podium. Representatives from every Union species filled the chamber, dressed in formal attire. Captain June and her officers stood in their dress uniforms, the silver and blue fabric catching the light. Security Officer Quan remained vigilant, his eyes constantly scanning the crowd despite the festive atmosphere. "Nervous?" asked Lieutenant Jin, noticing Quan's tension. "Something feels wrong," Quan replied quietly. "Too many people, too many variables." The ceremony began with traditional speeches. Elder Thrix welcomed Earth into the galactic community. Captain Jum responded with words of friendship and cooperation. The audience applauded as Union officials approached one by one to formally welcome the humans. Union Counselor Vex, a respected diplomat known for his work with refugee populations, approached Captain Jun with a ceremonial gift, a crystal sphere containing swirling colors, resting on a small silver pedestal. "A token of friendship," Vex announced, holding the gift toward Jun. Quan noticed something unusual, a slight tremor in Vex's hands, a dilation of his pupils. As the counselor pressed a hidden switch on the pedestal, Quan realized the truth. The gift contained a molecular disruptor designed to reduce organic matter to its basic components. Security Officer Quan moved without hesitation. In the split second before the device activated, he lunged forward, pushing Ambassador Rim of the Selmar away from the blast radius. The disruptor activated against Quan's chest, sending a wave of energy through his body. The crowd erupted in panic as Quan collapsed to the floor. Union security forces surrounded Counselor Vex, who began to laugh, a strange, disconnected sound. "The Imperium is eternal," Vex said, his voice suddenly different. This body served its purpose. Medical teams rushed the fallen human as Captain Jun knelt beside her officer. Quan's breathing was shallow, his skin turning gray where the disruptor had touched him. "Hold on," she urged him. "Medical team is here." Quan's eyes focused briefly on his captain. Knew something wasn't right, he whispered before losing consciousness. Captain Jum's communication device chimed with an emergency tone. She activated it to see Tactical Officer One's grim face. "Captain, long-range sensors detect a massive Vaxid fleet approaching Union headquarters. They've emerged from some kind of stealth field, at least 40 capital ships. Alert the Union fleet," Jun ordered. "Already tried," one replied. "The Vaxid have established blockades at all hyperspace junctions. No reinforcements can get through. Communication relays are being systematically destroyed." One's face showed the gravity of the situation. "The Valor stands alone, Captain." Around her, the ceremonial hall had descended into chaos. Delegates rushed for escape vessels that would never outrun the approaching fleet. Security forces tried to establish order while medical teams treated those injured in the initial panic. Captain Jun rose to her feet. In the midst of the disorder, she stood perfectly still, her uniform now stained with Quan's blood, but her posture unwavering. She tapped her communicator. "All Valor personnel, return to ship immediately. Prepare for emergency combat operations." She looked once more at Quan being loaded onto a stretcher, then at the frightened faces of the Union representatives who had only moments ago welcomed her as an ally. "Captain," one's voice came again. "Odds of success against such numbers are irrelevant," Jum interrupted. She straightened her uniform with one smooth motion. "Then alone we stand." The Valor hung in space, a black speck against the stars. Before it, the Vaxid Armada spread across the darkness. 40 warships arranged in attack formation. Behind the single human vessel lay the Galactic Union headquarters, a beautiful space station where 10,000 souls from 17 species now watched their doom approach. From the observation deck, Admiral Zet watched through high-powered scopes. "One ship against 40, he said softly. "Brave, but futile." On the Valor's command deck, Captain Jum sat in her chair, calm despite the overwhelming odds displayed on the tactical screens. "All weapons charged, Captain," reported Lieutenant Jin. "But even at full power, we can't engage more than 6 enemy vessels at once." "We won't need to," Jun replied. Her fingers tapped a sequence on her chair's control panel. "Tactical Officer 1. Status of the Umbral Core." One looked up from his station. face serious. Ready, Captain. But I must remind you, the core has never been field tested at full power. Captain June nodded. Today seems like a good day to test it. She pressed the ship-wide communication button. All personnel, secure for umbral core activation. This is not a drill. Throughout the ship, crew members strapped into special harnesses designed to protect them from what was coming. June took a deep breath. Activate the umbral core. Disengage all safety protocols. Deep within the Valor, a chamber that had remained sealed since the ship's construction opened. Inside, a sphere of absolute darkness floated in perfect stillness. Not black, but an absence of light that hurt the eyes to look at directly. As power fed into the core, the Valor's exterior began to shimmer. The sleek black hull rippled like water, light bending around it in impossible ways. On the Vaxid command ship, Supreme Commander Vex watched with curiosity. "What are they doing?" he asked as his targeting systems suddenly displayed error messages across all screens. "Why can't we lock weapons?" The science officer frantically adjusted sensors. "Unknown energy signature, sir. Gravitational sensors are showing impossible readings." Before the commander could respond, the Valor changed. It seemed to stretch, then split, then multiply. Suddenly, the Vaxid fleet faced not one human ship but what appeared to be dozens, each identical to the original. "Illusions," shouted Commander Vex. "Fire pattern Alpha. Saturate the area." The Vaxid ships launched missiles by the hundreds, energy weapons creating webs of destructive power across space. Not a single shot connected. The human vessel slipped between attacks as if it knew where each would be before it was fired. Then the Valor struck back. Its weapons fired with surgical precision, not at random, but at exactly the weakest points of each Vaxid ship. Shots that should have been impossible to calculate found their marks with perfect accuracy. They're moving through curved space. The Vaxid science officer realized too late. They're bending reality around their ship. On Union headquarters, sophisticated instruments recorded the battle. Scientists stared in disbelief at their readings. "The human vessel is manipulating gravitational fields on a quantum level," whispered a Selmar physicist. "They're not moving through space. They're moving space itself." Just as the battle reached its most intense point, alarms blared across all sensor stations. Space itself tore open at 17 different points surrounding the Vaxid fleet. From each rupture emerged not the blue swirl of hyperspace, but perfect black circles that seemed to lead nowhere and everywhere at once. Through these portals came the human fleet, hundreds of vessels of different sizes and designs, but all bearing the emblem of Earth. They didn't emerge chaotically as ships did from hyperspace, but in perfect formation, moving as if choreographed. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Zed as he watched the human vessels arrange themselves into complex geometric patterns, their movements synchronized like dancers. "They move like a single mind." The Vaxid fleet, expecting an easy victory, found themselves surrounded, outmaneuvered, and completely confused by tactics they couldn't predict or counter. Their rigid command structure collapsed when faced with the fluid, adaptive human strategy. Within 2 hours, it was over. The Vaxid ships that could still move had retreated. Those that couldn't were disabled but largely intact, their crews captured rather than killed. 3 days later, as Union and human medical teams treated wounded from all sides, Captain June stood before what remained of the Galactic Council. "The Vaxid Imperium has lost an entire fleet," she said simply. "Their leadership is in disarray. You have time now to strengthen your defenses and rebuild." Elder Thrix leaned forward. "You could have destroyed them completely." "We're not exterminators," June replied. "Even enemies deserve the chance to choose a better path." "And what path does Earth choose?" asked Thrix. Captain June straightened her shoulders. "Earth wishes to formally join the Galactic Union. As friends and protectors. What you saw today was only a fraction of our capabilities, but we prefer to build rather than destroy." 5 years later, the galaxy had changed. Species that had warred for centuries now worked together under treaties designed by human diplomats. Vaxid aggression had faded as their empire adopted new leadership with a focus on trade rather than conquest. In her quarters aboard the Valor, now permanently stationed at Union headquarters as a symbol of the new alliance, Captain June studied star charts of unexplored regions beyond known space. The maps showed strange anomalies and energy signatures that no Union scientist had been able to explain. A soft knock at her door preceded Officer Sung's entrance. He carried 2 cups of steaming tea. "The Council approved your proposal," he said, placing a cup beside her. "They've agreed to fund a joint exploration mission beyond the Outer Rim." June's fingers traced the unknown territories on the star chart. So much emptiness, so many possibilities. "They're still afraid of what's out there," Sung commented. "Fear is natural when facing the unknown," June replied. "That's why we'll go together. 300 years of watching from the shadows, and now we're leading the way into new territory," Sung mused. "Where to next, Captain?" Captain June smiled, a rare full smile that reached her eyes. Her finger circled the entire unexplored region of the map. "Everywhere," she said simply. "We go everywhere." And as the lights of Union headquarters glittered outside her window, Captain June knew that the arrival of one human warship had forever changed the course of galactic history, not through conquest, but through the perfect balance of strength and compassion that had always defined the best of humanity.